right, welcome to another edition of International Soccer Break, the American Soccer Break edition. I have Ishana and I have Rahi. It's been a few days since the U.S. women were eliminated from the World Cup, but doesn't feel any better, does it, guys?
No, it feels like I haven't woke up and I'm still in this never-ending nightmare and it just doesn't get any better. That's what it feels like.
Yes, I am. Forgive me if my spirits are not super high today because I am still grieving the loss.
Yeah, so let's get into it then. A few days ago, the U.S. women lost to Sweden in penalties. We'll get into the game a little bit, which eliminated them, the earliest they've ever been eliminated in a World Cup in the history of the U.S. women's national team program. So a bunch of not great things happened the other day.
No, I mean, the manner in which it happened was devastating. And if you didn't watch the game, if you're one of those people who thought that, this is going to be a difficult match, you could be forgiven for waking up and thinking, this is what I expected would happen. That the US would lose to a Swedish team that won their group, that is the number 3 team in the world, that has beaten us in the Olympics, that we would lose this game. And then, if you actually watched the game, you thought all of a sudden, this is the US team we've been waiting to see. This is a team that's suddenly starting to play together. Were they perfect? No, but they started to look a lot better than in their past 3 games, and they dominated this Swedish team. Really dominated this Swedish team. And yet, at the end of it all, in the cruelest of ways, they go out by a millimeter. And in some ways, it's the result we expected going into the game. But the way it happened, I mean, it's just hard to get over.
Yeah, here's my issue with it is that everybody keeps saying, "Oh, this is not because the US was playing badly. The other teams are catching up. The other teams are catching up. The other teams are catching up." I've heard this many times, but this is not a shock. Everybody knew this. The US team knew this going into this tournament. Nobody has said anything but this. And I was looking forward to this tournament knowing that there would be healthier competition. If you remember way back when at the end of the men's tournament, that's what I said. I'm looking forward to the Women's World Cup because for once, the playing field is going to be leveled. We're going to have healthy competition. And I wanted to see how our US team would perform with that. It was exciting for me to see them challenged. The problem is, this is the first game where I actually saw what they were capable of. And they were playing to maybe not their potential, but close to their potential. And we never really got to see this team play then in that sense in this tournament. This is the only game that I feel like I've actually seen them play. And to me, it's largely and mostly because of the coaching. And, I do feel like the Federation failed them a little bit. And it is just, it doesn't feel real. It feels like I watched the warm up for the World Cup or the pre-camp.
Exactly what you said. You just said it took them 4 games to look like a semblance of a team on the field, which when you think about it, this is the most important tournament in the world. How in the world does it take you into the 4th game of this tournament to start playing in a way that looks remotely cohesive?
Yeah, I get all that, but I think that's a little bit of I mean, they played a good game against Sweden. They were dominated Sweden. They couldn't put the ball. They didn't score. Okay, so at the end of the day, it's weird how it mirrors the men's team. Men's team has problems scoring. Now the women's team has a problem scoring as well. I get it. Soccer is a game that you need to put the ball in the back of the net, and they should have won it in regulation. But they played a good game.
But in that 30 minutes of extra time, did they really look like scoring? Yes, they had chances in regulation. I don't deny that. And the goalie made good saves. But in extra time, did they look like scoring?
I mean, I would have been satisfied with had they played the way they played against Sweden throughout the rest of the tournament. I would have been satisfying knowing that they got knocked out before the quarterfinals. I would have been okay with that. I would have been accepting of it. It just feels like a weird, abrupt exit because of how they're playing the group stage.
I mean, look, at the end of the day, they were one Sophia Smith penalty away from winning the game. And then the question is, would we have
come to that?
I agree it shouldn't have come to that.
They were a better team than Sweden on this day. And when you have an advantage, you need to take advantage of the way we were playing and try and score. And then the subs made no sense. And it became the situation where we were scared to lose in 30 minutes of extra time. We were playing as if penalties was okay. When you're the superior team and when you're playing that way and you're creating chances, you can't concede that penalties is a decent outcome, because that takes away all the tactical advantage you had during the game, and you're playing a crapshoot.
Yeah, 100%. Like that's when they should have gone for it.
I just supremely feel that Vlatko is the person who caused them to lose this game. I mean, the substitution choice of Megan Rapinoe was absolutely ridiculous. Like, you're bringing on a 38-year-old player who's essentially on her farewell tour, who's really there to just kind of serve as having veteran leadership. I felt like it did, obviously, the team a disservice, and it did her a disservice as well. Like, she wasn't asking to be put on. Like, they kind of messed up a bit of her legacy in that sense. Like, that was not her role.
Yeah. And Alyssa Thompson was on the bench the whole time. You had an 18-year-old. When the entire game you watched, Lynn Williams came in and her pace gave those Swedish fullbacks problems over and over and over again, as did Trinity Robin when she was playing. And then you bring on somebody with no pace?
Yeah, it made no sense.
The other thing that makes no sense, though, one thing I was going to say is, okay, fine, you bring her on, and then you clearly made a mistake. I don't know how. He's repeated this mistake many times now, but whatever. She's not making her corners. She's not looking good on the ball. So then why do you put her in the lineup for PKs like that early? It doesn't make any sense.
I mean, but her penalty record is amazing.
Yes, but at that point, we know she is a different player in this tournament, and that's fine. I mean, she's older. Like, this is, like I said, it's essentially a farewell tour. I don't understand why, once you've established that, like, what is going through this coaching staff? What is going through their minds where they keep repeating the same error?
You know what this game reminded me a lot of? It reminded me a lot of the Euro final, where essentially England had the upper hand against Italy, and they ended up not pushing in extra time to try to kill the game off with their young players. In this case, he waited until the very last minute to bring a couple of them in to take penalties, which backfired completely, just like the penalties on ours, bringing in those two veterans backfired more or less, because, Kelly O'Hara missed her penalty.
But at the end of the day, I mean, these people are going to miss their PKs. Like, it's going to happen. Everybody misses their PKs. And was that Southgate who was coaching at that time?
Yeah, Southgate.
Yeah, so the big criticism, right, and again, we're talking about the men's team here, is that a lot of people, English fans, are criticizing Southgate because they think that his players are better than him as a coach. And that is precisely how I feel about the women's team. These are very skilled players. Like, it was almost like you're taking a team and making them worse. And it like, they're so much better. I mean, we only saw Kelly O'Hara, at least ostensibly, even like actively looking like there's some leadership on the team. Like, where is Vlatko?
Yeah,
but that being said, Sophia Smith and Alex Morgan had very, very poor tournaments, and that has to be said for two strikers that, in theory,
Sophia Smith, the Vietnam. I mean,
no, she did not have a good. Sophia Smith was supposed to set this tournament on fire, and she didn't. Right, and that was a big reason why we didn't do well, is that our strikers didn't score goals. At times, we didn't create chances, but when we did create them, we didn't score.
Let's get into that then, because I think let's go straight to our on-off topic here. So, there's been a lot of news in the ether out there. This team is arrogant. They came with arrogance. Then there's this concept of, did the players let themselves down? Or here's the onside-offside question. Was it the coaching? Did Vlatko lose the World Cup for the U.S. women's national team?
Okay, I am onside. I precisely think that he lost, as I just said. And also because, even in this game, for example, we see Trinity Rodman, supposedly she was sick. I don't know, you take her off. The problem with him is, it's okay to make these, these subs, make these calls, but then you have to adjust. And it just felt like he wasn't learning from anything that was happening. And that's my issue. The reason I disagree with these, pundits, and I think a lot, they see the marketing behind this team and they are conflating that arrogance with the actual team themselves. Like, that ad about who will beat us, we're going for a three-peat, whatever. Like, that's just a way to generate excitement and for people to tune in and get excited about women's soccer. I don't think there was nothing in particular with the players that felt arrogant to me. Alex Morgan said this is one of our best teams and I'm confident we will win this tournament. That's a very normal thing to say as a co-captain of a team that has won previously, has this history, and when you're one of the best players in the world, or at least you were, I mean, and we would see Ronaldo say this, Zlatan say this, like maybe not Messi, but Messi is Messi. He's man of few words, but I don't understand where that came from exactly.
Okay, so Shana, you're onside. Rahi.
I'm definitely onside.
So there's something it's easy to forget here, and that is that 14 players on this roster had never been in a World Cup before. And then, I rewatched Sophia Smith's penalty, and you know what? She looked nervous. And then I realized she's young, and this is the biggest moment of her career to date. And yes, she will come back, but that's all of a sudden, it's in fact the exact opposite of arrogance that lost this team. It's not being prepared, not being ready for the moment, not being put in that position by your federation or by your coach. These are young players in many cases, and then you had some aging veterans who really shouldn't have played the minutes that they did. And that's on the coach. And more than on the coach, it's on the federation. This same coach lost to this Sweden team 3-0 in the Olympics. And what did the federation do? Accepted that mediocrity as, okay, this is fine. This coach was not ready for this situation, and you allowed him to take this team with a bunch of young players who needed a strong coach and needed somebody who could tell also the veterans, I think I need to play this 18-year-old instead of you. They needed that strong voice, and this coach wasn't that. It took him 4 games to figure out that he needed to play a double pivot in the midfield, which he finally did, and it finally looked good. But then in-game substitutions, the test of a coach is how do you react to things when they change within the game? And every single time his substitutions made no sense, and they also were an indicator that we are trying not to lose this game. We are not trying to win this game. In that moment, when you have Sweden on the ropes, when the goalie's making save after save, and you have young talent on the bench, you instead go to veteran, steady presences. For what reason? That's a coach that is coaching scared. So this is onside for you, but it's also onside for the federation for accepting mediocrity. And it really saddens me because it's taking these players and putting them in the position where people are calling them arrogant. People are calling them overconfident. And it's a federation that's overconfident, a federation that has approached the World Cup with the entirely wrong perspective, and a coach who wasn't ready. So onside. I am onside just like you, Ashana.
Yeah, I think that's another question for another time in terms of the federation. We'll get into that later. But I'm also, look, I agree with you both completely. I'm 100% onside. The substitutions he made in the game didn't make any sense with Rupino coming in. Alyssa Thompson should have come in. And there's a bunch of things we get into. But the thing now is they have to make the decision, and I think it makes sense. Olympics is coming up next year. So these players got to get ready. I think we need a new coach. I think that's fairly obvious. Finish with this because I think you just brought it up. I think I want to ask both of you real quick, who is your best player at the World Cup? We'll finish with this.
Well, before I get into the best, I do want to say I know that Trinity Rodman has also gotten a lot of flack, and I'm really not quite sure why. This game, she perhaps got taken out early because she was sick, but nothing indicated to me, especially in this game, that she is underperforming. And I just want to say that. However, best player for me, okay, this last game I would probably say was Emily Fox. She was extremely solid. Andy Sullivan was great as well. But throughout the tournament, hands down, it's Girma. Like, there's just no question about it. She has been the most consistent player. I'm pleasantly surprised with Crystal Dunn. I think she improved as the tournament went on. Lindsay Horan as a whole, she did okay, but I would say if I had to choose one, I would definitely say Girma. And obviously Nair, she's great.
I mean, I think there's no question. I mean, she was brilliant the entire tournament. She's incredibly young, incredibly talented on the ball, and great passer as a center back. I mean, it's got to be Naomi Girma. She was probably, honestly, and we'll see as the tournament goes on, but one of the best defenders in the tournament.
The whole defensive line was great too.
Yeah,
I want to
well.
say
Well.
Julie
Yeah,
Ertz played great. I mean, yeah.
Yeah. I would agree. I think Naomi Gurva definitely was a standout. So anyway, U.S. fans out there, we're all a little bit, upset by the result, but come back stronger. You don't have a lot of time to get ready for the Olympics, so hopefully the federation gets it right and
yes, let's get a new coach.
And then we can start the redemption tour in France next summer. But as always, even in defeat, good job, U.S. women's team, and go USA.